Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're finishing chapter 42 of the book of Isaiah as part of our study of the suffering servant passage, that long, extended passage about the Messianic age, which is also about their current historical, religious, cultural situation and that in the near future for the people of Judah. These words written during Hezekiah's reign, maybe a little later, but looking forward to their future idolatry and captivity in Babylon, and all of that being part and parcel of God's plan to bring about the Messiah. But their captivity is the consequence of their idolatry, is the consequence of their sin. A couple of sessions ago, I said now that the prophet's going to be talking himself to the people, making his own plea, and that's what he does here at the end of chapter 42. God has said with God's own words that the prophet is sharing with us is that you are a people plundered and despoiled, and there's nobody coming to rescue you. Nobody. And so now the prophet speaks, and he says to his nation, who are not so bad at the moment, you know, who among you will give ear to this? Who will give heed and listen hereafter? Who gave up Jacob for a spoil? He's seeing this captivity from a vantage point down the road, looking back, communicating that this is a certitude. This will happen. This will be part of history. Who gave Jacob up for spoil and Israel to plunderers? Was it not Yahweh, against whom we have sinned, and in whose ways they were not willing to walk, and whose law they did not obey? He poured out on him the heat of his anger and the fierceness of battle, and set it aflame all around. Yet he did not recognize it, and it burned him, but he paid no attention. There are a lot of personal pronouns, the same personal pronoun being used, and sometimes it's hard to sift through the antecedents. He poured out on him the heat of his anger. He, God, poured out on Judah and Israel. Judah is the son of Jacob, through whom the promise is to be kept. But Judah is also the name of the southern kingdom. Israel is the name Jacob was given after he struggled with God. Israel is also the name of the northern kingdom. And so that complicates all these identities as well. But we may not know exactly what each he means, but we know what it's about. It was God's intention that both the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom would go into captivity for their sins. Idolatry for both kingdoms. As you read the prophets to the northern kingdom, Hosea and Amos, we know that their great sins were social injustice and international intrigue instead of depending upon God, also idolatry. But God speaks about the first two more than he does the third. But the people of Judah, especially in the reign of Manasseh, could not get enough idolatry. They'd practiced absolutely everything there was to do to shake their fist in the face of God. If the northern kingdom was corrupt, and it was terribly corrupt, the southern kingdom was guilty of the sin of hubris in addition, which is the greatest sin we can possibly commit, to shake our fist in the face of God. God will not let that go unpunished, and he did not. And yet, as we continue to see in the suffering servant passage, God can work his will in an infinite number of ways because he is an infinite God. And even in sending them to captivity because of their sin, that in itself will be something that will bring us closer to the Messiah. And we'll see that in subsequent passages. Okay, guess what I'm going to do today, which I haven't done in at least 3 years. I'm going to end before the 5 minutes clicks off. We'll pick up in chapter 43 in one of the most beautiful passages in all the Bible. Again, God's internal monologue next time. Thank you for joining me for 5 good minutes.